What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new news roundup video. These have been going quite frequent at the minute because, well, there's just a lot of news to talk about. And today we are discussing more Ezra Miller updates with regards to new information on 3 scenarios of what Warner Brothers Discovery are thinking of doing with regards to the Flash movie and how they're handling it. Plus some other bonus information there. Also some new looks at Black Adam and teases on the movie and various other details. We have updates on the Green Lantern series on HBO Max. We talked about that in the previous news roundup video, but again, more stuff to talk about there. Also, HBO Max's Penguin series, as well as the Black Canary movie, and also interesting details on what Warner Brothers in the previous regime were planning for the DCEU in terms of Crisis on Infinite Earth. So there's also some other bonus details that I'm going to chuck in there, but let's get right into it. You guys can help out these videos grow a little bit more and help grow my channel by leaving a like on the video. Maybe consider subscribing if you're enjoying the content on this channel. But let's start right at the beginning, and that is with Ezra Miller and the Flash movie. So the other day in my previous news roundup video, we discussed the latest story with Ezra Miller and how they were charged with a felony burglary. But now we have some more updates with the current status of Warner Brothers Discovery, how they're viewing things, coming out of The Hollywood Reporter. The article title is as follows: Warner Brothers weighing fate of the Flash as its Ezra Miller problem grows. So they report that Warner's and its new parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, had hoped to avoid the line of fire because its big budget DC superhero tentpole isn't scheduled to hit theaters until June 23rd, 2023, but the pressure is mounting by the day. On Monday, the actor was charged with a felony burglary, and on Wednesday, Rolling Stone reported that Vermont's Child Services Department is attempting to locate a mother and 3 children who have allegedly been residing at Miller's farm in the state. And this is where the latest information comes in, because a source with knowledge of the situation says the studio appears to be preparing for 3 possible scenarios. So let's go over the first one, the second one, and then the third one, and then of course we'll discuss what I think is maybe the right direction to go, what they might do, and then you guys can let me know your thoughts, of course. So first, Warner's has received indications that the 29-year-old Miller, whose mother has accompanied the actor in recent days, will seek professional help after returning home to their farm in Vermont after being away. If that help happens, Miller, who goes by they, them pronouns, could give an interview at some point explaining their erratic behavior over the past few years. The actor could then do limited press for The Flash, and the movie would open in cinemas as planned. But what about the second scenario? So the second scenario is that even if Miller doesn't reach out for help, Warner's could still release the film, but don't expect Miller to play a prominent role in terms of marketing and publicity. Nor would Miller be the Flash going forward, as the role would be recast in future projects. And the third and final case that they're evaluating is that things go from bad to worse with the situation with Miller deteriorating. This would see Warner's killing the movie outright, as it could not be reshot with a different actor. Miller plays multiple characters and is in almost every scene. Scrapping a $200 million film would be an unprecedented move. So let's discuss this very briefly. Out of those 3 options, obviously I think the first 2 are the most likely. Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav have gone on record to say that they think this movie is great, along with Black Adam, and that Andy Muschietti has made a really good movie. Despite whatever we all may think about Ezra Miller and the recent allegations, the recent arrests over the past few months, they want this movie to release. It's a very important movie to them, more important than that of Ezra Miller. So as a result, the third case, that depends on, again, unless Ezra does something that is absolutely breaking news on every news channel, like, I don't know, like the worst crime you could imagine, or something like that, this probably won't happen. So that's when we have to look at the first 2 options. The first one being that if Ezra does indeed get help, they would then do an interview perhaps explaining their erratic behavior over the past few years. I don't know if that would help or inflame the situation, because then it would be open to a lot of scrutiny, obviously, because no matter what, there is another side that does need to be heard, of course, like with regards to many of the serious allegations. Obviously, there is blatant arrests, but there's more than just these arrests happening, so we could hear their side of the situation. But again, what I mean by inflammation is it's open to scrutiny. Like, what about this? Does this condone that? It would be a very, very doctored interview, of course. It would be very specific. There would be some answers given, but there would be a lot of, how do I put this? What I mean by doctored is they would be very careful in how, obviously, things are articulated out of this interview. And then obviously once that happens, they would then proceed with a press tour, but a very limited one. And I think that would be somewhat doctored as well. So if the first option goes forward, that would allow a press tour, but not one of conventional means for a movie, absolutely, you know, throwing the star out there of the movie, The Flash, Ezra Miller themselves. It would be done in a way that there would be interviews, of course, but I have no doubt that those interviewers would be given a full briefing on do not ask about this. If you ask about this, your interview your recording or whatever will be scrapped. So they'll be going in there only specifically asking about the movie. That will be heavily controlled, undoubtedly. So this is an option. And I think, obviously, one thing that's been on everyone's minds is, why isn't this being addressed? La-di-da-da, la-da. So if Ezra does address this and explain the stuff and the recent erratic behavior, if you will, in an interview, then people, whether it's inflamed or not, would maybe be more willing, especially Warner Brothers Discovery, and be more amenable, if you will, to that of a press run. But the second option, of course, is another likely one, that even if Ezra Miller doesn't reach out for help, as it says here in this report, Warner's could still release the film, but obviously not expect Ezra Miller to play a prominent role in terms of the marketing or publicity, which option number 2 here has been the one that most people, and myself, have been running with, that there wouldn't be so much red carpet, there wouldn't be massive marketing in terms of like specific interviews with Ezra. There would be promotions, trailers and stuff like that, billboards, but it would be heavily kind of held back compared to what they would have traditionally done had none of this erratic behavior, if you will, had happened in the first place. So I think that they're probably aiming towards the first of 3 scenarios, because obviously people do want to hear Ezra's comments on this. An interview would be certainly interesting, and if there is any sign of, I don't know, I don't think it would be completely explained, there would still be questions after it, but if there's any glimmer of hope for Warner Brothers Discovery after the interview that there's something to salvage and they could go down the somewhat traditional marketing route with Ezra involved, I think they might take that option. But this all depends, of course, on the future. This movie isn't slated until June 23rd, 2023. We've got plenty and plenty more months for more things to happen. And that's not me being like pessimistic, so to speak, because I said in my last video that despite everyone memeing here and there, just saying like, oh, you know, something else is going to happen, I thought after everything, surely nothing else will happen, right? Like, I was thinking like, you know, like really? But then the felony burglary charges happened. But that was, of course, something that happened back in May. It's just, you know, investigations happen, and then the police eventually reached out in August, you know, this month, to finally issue that charge. So what I'm trying to say is things could still happen, but Ezra's mum has been accompanying them in recent days. There's been press photos of that, I believe, at her home. I could be wrong about that, but either way, this could be the beginning of maybe the, you know, the quiet period up until the release of the movie. Finally, they might be getting help, so the interview might happen, but let me know your thoughts on this. What do you think the best option is? Some of you might just say the third option, completely scrap the movie, but again, that is unlikely unless something majorly bad happens. They do not want to waste hundreds of millions of dollars. As I started off by saying, the movie is more important than the star itself to Warner Brothers Discovery. So the first 2 are the most likely. I would put more of a probability on the first scenario, but let me know your takeaway. This also comes in addition to recently reported information. Thought I'd chuck this in here. That work was kept up on The Flash over the summer, with Ezra Miller being involved despite all of the stories surrounding Ezra. The Hollywood Reporter also said that work kept up on The Flash, which has been testing well. Miller participated in regularly scheduled additional photography over the summer, apparently without incident, before being charged with burglary, their 3rd arrest this year, on August 7th in Vermont. Still, neither DC nor Zaslav has indicated the film will move from its June 2023 release date, though insiders say the studio is evaluating all options, and that's where we come to the most recent update we just read out. So again, that was happening. Ezra was coming in before being charged with the burglary. Some people were discussing that. Why would Warner Brothers, let Ezra do that even if the burglary thing hadn't happened yet, the charge at least? What about everything else? Again, just look at it on the bottom line. If the film had regular scheduled additional photography, they're going to get the star in because, again, as emphasized, Ezra is in more or less every scene in the movie, so some work would need to be done. I'm sure they probably had a conversation saying, please, just whatever's going on, try and reel it in. But yeah, just wanted to discuss that. Work has been done despite all of the things that were happening, but it's understandable at the same time. The movie is a product that Warner Brothers Discovery want to push and have always wanted to push despite all of this. Now, next up in the lands of the DCEU stories, we have even more surrounding that of the plans of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So, The Hollywood Reporter also mentioned something that was under the previous regime. If you don't know what I mean by that, if you're a bit out of the loop, Warner Brothers Discovery have taken over, they've effectively done a reset, they've got a new 10-year DC plan that obviously is maintaining aspects of the DCEU, but the previous regime that was helmed with all of these plans, such as Batgirl and everything like that, had another plan under Walter Hamada, and that is as follows. So Hamada's plans were said to have included a Crisis on Infinite Earths event, a take on the seminal DC Comics story that was adapted for TV on the CW. Rumors circulated about introducing the Secret Six, a villain team that in the comics have been Suicide Squad antagonists. More concretely, Warner's had films based on Supergirl, Green Lantern Corps, and Static Shock expected to release in the next few years, plus a J.J. Abrams produced Black Superman film from writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. Development has slowed, with none of those features attaching directors. So this is just a mini update I wanted to talk about with regards to that's just interesting to consider that everything was leading up to a Crisis on Infinite Earths. So even though the Flash movie was coming out and acting as a little bit of a soft reboot, they were going for an even bigger reboot. If you know what Crisis on Infinite Earths is all about, by the end of it, a lot of changes happen. So that obviously no longer seems to be happening because Warner Brothers Discovery are using the Flash film as their means to start the next chapter, so to speak, which is obviously one of the reasons why this movie is still so important to them. But man, Crisis on a cinematic scale would have been insane. We've seen it on the CW with the Anti-Monitor there and, Oliver Queen turning into the Spectre and all kinds of things, but that would have gone crazy. Like, so many characters. What would the Anti-Monitor have been like on the big screen? It's just something that I could talk about for the next 30 minutes, but there's only so many things you can say because obviously that was under Hamada's old plans, and that is seemingly no longer happening. But let me know what you think of that. I mean, to me, it's not a massive, massive loss because either way, we're at where we're at now. As they say, it is what it is with regards to the new situation. The next 10-year DC plan under David Zaslav heavily includes, quality, focusing on the major franchises such as Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. Of course, they're going to continue with other projects, which we've got some updates about in this video, and existing characters within that of the DCEU. So let me know what you think of the potential Crisis on Infinite Earths that was meant to happen under Hamada's old plans, under the old Warner Brothers regime. And the next story we have to talk about today is some pretty cool Black Adam updates. So first up, I want to talk about what they said in the same Hollywood Reporter article, because we have some teasers for a post-credit scene in Black Adam when they were discussing all of this latest Warner Brothers Discovery drama. So the remarks were not well received inside DC, according to multiple insiders who used the same word to describe members of the film division, pissed. And DC Films president Walter Hamada nearly exited after learning of the shelving of Batgirl before being convinced to stay on until at least the October 21st release of Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. That film had a June test screening, including a new post-credit scene introducing a new element to Johnson's place in the DC universe. Now that is very, very interesting. Obviously the speculation could go anywhere because, like, what is this post-credit scene? It's supposedly, as reported here, meant to introduce a new element with regards to Johnson's place, you know, Black Adam's place in the DC universe. So I think what that entails is whatever would have been in that post-credit scene would have not only given us the next direction with regards to where Black Adam is going, but what it means from here on out in the next 10-year plan. So could he have met Superman, like come across Superman, even if it's in a very brief way where you don't have a firm actor? Maybe there's a comment made from Black Adam saying, who is this Superman? You know, maybe there's a news report on TV, thus setting up a subtle foreshadowing for the future of Black Adam versus Superman. You could argue that it's got something to do with Shazam, but it's anyone's guess ultimately, but we'll most likely see this post-credit scene as they're, you know, teasing it in the test screenings. And obviously it's quite important, relatively speaking, because it is indeed introducing a new element to Johnson's place in the DC universe. So let me know your thoughts on that and what that could be about. But in the most recent news with Black Adam, we've got Vanity Fair having released a whole new feature of the movie with comments from Dwayne Johnson, photos that I'm probably going to be playing on screen in the background at the same time. They're black and white, but there's some bad-ass shots of the JSA and Black Adam. So let's read out a few things that I think you guys would maybe like to hear about Black Adam from Dwayne Johnson, the director, and others. So Dwayne Johnson said, Superman won't kill anybody. There's a code that he lives by and he honors. Black Adam has a unique code of ethics too. He will not hesitate, and I like to have a little fun when I'm explaining this, to rip somebody in half. Does that mean the actor is kidding? Literally, he'll grab someone by the neck and by the thigh and then rip them up, tear them apart, Johnson clarifies. His view of this world that he is brought back into, the current world, now after 5,000 years, is very myopic. There's no room or space for him being wrong. There's no room or space for anyone else's opinion. There's only room and space for him justifying anything that he does because of his pain, and he pushes and pushes and pushes and does not see any other way. It's very black and white. Now, the director teases that it's not your typical superhero movie where a guy wants to be a superhero and gets the powers and then you spend 50 minutes trying to figure out how the powers work. This is a movie where you introduce Black Adam right away, and then throughout the movie you slowly peel back the onion and reveal what happened. And obviously with that comment we're going to see, you know, what happened back in Kahndaq 5,000 years ago with Black Adam losing his son, etc, etc. And yeah, I kind of like the idea of how that will be paced throughout the movie and how we're going to start off with Black Adam going ham. And I have to admit, I love these shots of Black Adam, but especially the JSA. There's something about the way these are taken. Maybe the black and white as well makes it look badass, although I do wish we had a color version as well. But some teasers for the JSA characters describe how Hodges Hawkman is repulsed by Black Adam's tactics, but shares some of his stubbornness. He is a very driven character that knows he's on the right side, Colette Serra says. Definitely, he's a leader. He wants to bring his team together and bring a certain stability to the world. Hawkman has a very strong sense of what's right or wrong, and Black Adam challenges that. Now, with regards to Dr. Fate, it's been said that you need a special actor to play basically a legend, the filmmaker explains. Dr. Fate is a very powerful being, so you need someone like Pierce who can play powerful without it being overly done. He can do it in a very subtle way. I mean, he's one of the coolest people in the world. He was James Bond, but as a person, he's magnetic, so warm with such gravitas. Now with Cyclone and Atom Smasher, they're also very beloved characters, but we've gone the younger route in this, Colette Serra says. Quintessa Swindell's Cyclone hails from a family of heroes and now has to live up to that legacy, overshadowed by a grandmother who was known as Red Tornado. It's always fun when you introduce characters in a team that have never really seen combat before, so the audience gets to experience it through those fresh eyes. And the same with Atom Smasher. Even though Atom Smasher is a bit more experienced, they're close in age and together they have a bond. We are the new ones here, let's not screw it up. Noah Centinio's Atom Smasher can make himself gigantic, but also feels crushed by the expectations that come with his powers. He's still not sure that this is what he wants to do. He thinks this is what he wants to do, he thinks he's on the right side, but he has a lot more questions. So let me know what you think about about all of that. Personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing the JSA, or at least the current roster of the JSA, maybe any references to other members like Jay Garrick, or maybe even Stargirl, but I somewhat doubt it. But seeing and hearing about the inexperience here of, you know, Atom Smasher and Cyclone and whatnot. Also, the pictures look amazing of Hawkman. I think he looks absolutely fantastic in this particular image. But let me know your thoughts on everything down in the comments below. But on to the next story we have to talk about today. That is a little bit of an update on what I spoke about the other day with how Kevin Smith discussed how the HBO Max Strange Adventures series was canned, revealing his details on his episode because it was like an anthology episode to episode, different perspective of characters in the DC universe in a self-contained story, and how he was doing a Bizarro Superman episode. But he also stated that he wouldn't be surprised if HBO Max's Green Lantern series was also a casualty of everything going on under the new regime. But we have it here now coming out from the Hollywood Reporter that Green Lantern received a series order at the time. Strange Adventures, however, was only picked up for development, and after receiving scripts from Smith and Carrasco and several other writers, it didn't move forward. Green Lantern remains on track at the streamer, sources say, with Finn Wittrock and Jeremy Irvine set to star and Lee Toland Krieger on board to direct the first 2 episodes. Sources say all involved are taking their time with the effects-heavy show, the priciest series Berlanti Productions has ever mounted, in order to get it right. And it's similar to what I was saying in my previous video, with regards to that update video that I mentioned, which I do still recommend watching if you want to stay up to date with or know what's going on with the Green Lantern series, because believe it or not, it's still relevant with all the recent comments that were made by people working on the show. But I did say that it seemed to be moving along. It's just very, very slowly. However, with all of the recent happenings at Warner Brothers Discovery, canning various things, I did ultimately come down to, like, you never know. Like, you don't know if they're gonna scrap the Green Lantern series. But here we are. We have it being reported that, as per what I was looking into around a month or so ago, they are working on it. They are going forward in every stage that you can imagine. It's just things are moving not necessarily at a snail's pace, just fairly slow, which is why and what led to a lot of fans thinking, is this thing actually happening though? Whereas, for example, with Strange Adventures, we didn't even get any comments from anyone working on the show up until Kevin Smith announced that it was indeed canned. So I'm sure a lot of you are very happy to hear about HBO Max's Green Lantern series still going forward. Also, in other HBO Max news as well, it's said that Harley Quinn Season 4 is said to be a very safe bet, reported by TV Line. So for all of you who love Harley Quinn on HBO Max, of which I do as well, Season 4 should be going forward. And this also shouldn't come at a major surprise. Despite all the premise I set up with regards to fans and everyone alike being kind of worried about if HBO Max projects are going to be canned, we actually did get some reassurance from David Zaslav, even though I know lots of people, and I don't blame them for being cautious or apprehensive, because you still don't know despite these comments, even though it is reassuring. David Zaslav did say specifically that there was some buzz today about HBO Max that we're going to start doing less series. And our strategy is to embrace and support and then drive the incredible success that HBO Max is having. And then in another comment, he says, we're doubling down on that HBO team. They're all committed under contract, and we're going to spend dramatically more this year and next year than we spent last year in the year before. So again, this does seem to match up. We got the Green Lantern series still pushing forward. Another thing as well that people were worried about, HBO Max's Penguin series, a spin-off from the Batman. We got some updates there with regards to Deadline reporting that Hamada is also extending Reeves' Batman universe with a standalone Penguin HBO Max series starring Colin Farrell, which is looking at a February production start. So again, here it's like, never say never, despite the Zaslav comments, but still going forward. Like, production is looking to start in February of 2023, and that goes along with Colin Farrell's live interview comments saying, yeah, like, you know, I'm busy up until Christmas with some other project, but hopefully early next year we're going to be doing that. And now, you know, everything should be okay. So the HBO Max series, or at least, you know, some of them like Strange Adventures seem to just fall under development, but the main stuff is still going, with David Zaslav saying that, you know, we're going to put even more money into it. You know, this goes along as well with how James Gunn has got 3 new shows for DC in development at HBO Max that are still yet to be properly revealed. And that's most likely after the crazy success of Peacemaker. So Zaslav knows, like, there is stock to be had in these shows. And for now, it's looking pretty good moving forward. For now. But speaking of other projects that could or might not be going forward, or at least that people were thinking, okay, well, they can the Batgirl movie, what else are they gonna can? One of them that people were wondering about is DC's Black Canary movie. And we have some reassuring reports that goes as follows. So in the wake of Warner Brothers Discovery abruptly pulling the plug on the nearly complete Leslie Grace's starring Batgirl movie, a spokesperson for Warner Brothers Pictures confirms for TV Line that the Black Canary standalone movie that was first announced a year ago remains in development at the streamer. Now, if you want some updates specifically on that, I did, to plug another video here, do an update on this, covering the various developments and whatnot, but also the status of Green Arrow in the DCEU, because I also go over in that video and how Warner Brothers could be eyeing Austin Butler for the role of Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, in the Black Canary movie, whether it's a small role or whatever, if it's kind of like a backdoor entry for his own appearance in his own movie, who knows. But Black Canary's still going forward, apparently. A rep said it. Again, I understand apprehension, because never say never, especially with certain things going on. But, you know, we have had some reassurance. So Black Canary is still getting its movie as far as today goes. And lastly, guys, a very quick one. In other news, we have Pennyworth, the DC show Pennyworth, of which I do think a lot of people sleep on. It's a really decent show. But they have changed the title of the show from Pennyworth, DC's Pennyworth, to, guess what? Pennyworth, The Origins of Batman's Butler. And it's just like, even though there's a lot of fans of this show, a lot of people are finding this kind of corny and cheesy. I think because, you know, it got renewed for season 3, there's now a trailer, it's being advertised as Pennyworth, The Origins of Batman's Butler. It could be it's obviously a marketing move, but it could be the 3rd and final season that maybe they're trying to get. I mean, there's obviously many of us DC fans who know what Pennyworth is, but there's still hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who don't watch Pennyworth, who just think, Pennyworth? DC? But if they see Origins of Batman's Butler there, they might get some more viewers in, despite how corny the title is. So maybe they're trying to get an influx of new audience to watch the show, to maybe continue the show on. But nonetheless, it is unfortunately a little bit of a corny title. It is what it is. It's not like a terrible, terrible thing, but I just found it kind of corny and cheesy. But let me know your thoughts on that anyway, and let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed in this latest news roundup video, guys. I really am loving making these daily videos. I mean, at the minute, they're daily. They might not be daily, but I'll be carrying them on. Also collecting other various stuff from the Marvel side of things and whatnot, but there was just a lot of DC things to unpack today. So I'm looking forward to read your comments on everything. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate the support and the, you know, helping out the growing of this channel through leaving a like on this video. You can also subscribe if you want to stay up to date with more content and reviews and breakdowns just like this. We also have a super thanks feature on the channel. Maybe consider hitting that and supporting the channel as well. By all means, you don't have to, but would really appreciate it if you checked it out. Also, other links in the description to my social media. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. I'm very active there. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DC Universe in the next video. Goodbye.